friends on talkSPORT and talkRADIO. Time to offer you half a dozen Freeview movie selections, recommendations from me, Paul Ross, but more importantly, from our mate Van Connor, one of the country's leading film critics, and a genuinely nice bloke. Good morning, Van. How you doing, sir?
I'm all good, Mr. Ross. You know, I saw a new John Woo movie this week, so that's all good in my book. How you doing?
What's it called and what's it like?
Oh, it's called Silent Night. It's out on Sky Cinema on the 23rd, and it's a dialogue-free action movie set at Christmas. It's brilliant.
Loving it. Can't wait to hear about that one. And also, we've got your first recommendation, which is Bus Baby, the animated film.
Yeah, when you said that, I heard Bus Baby for a second there. I'm imagining a little boy.
It was my attempt at a terrible Wall Street American accent. Bus Baby. Can only apologise.
I just imagine a little baby driving a double-decker bus now, and I really want to see that movie. The Bus Baby, which was nominated for Best Animated Feature, notably did not win. End of 2017, beginning of 2018. This has Alec Baldwin. It's a DreamWorks movie that has the voice of Alec Baldwin as the eponymous Boss Baby himself. It's about a young boy who, wants nothing, just enjoys his life. His parents have, a new baby. New baby starts to usurp him, and he hates said baby right up until he discovers that it's all a sham, and the baby is actually a sort of Wall Street Gordon Gekko, Glenn Ross style tycoon who's on a mission to protect all of humanity and baby kind from an onslaught of evil puppies, which sounds more ridiculous than it actually is, but it's tons of fun, and there's loads of gags in there about things, nods to things like Glenn Ross, and Alec Baldwin's own 30 Rock character comes under fire in it as well. And you can see this today on CBBC. Second week in a row, I've recommended something from CBBC. It must be something about Christmas. Their film programmer wakes up at Christmas, I think, and this is on at 5:30 today. Absolute banger for the kids, this one. And me as an adult watching this, I absolutely laughed myself senseless. It's like some great nods in there. I thought the film's really good, just a really enjoyable, whimsical ride. It's got Steve Buscemi as a villain, which is always a win in my books. There is a sequel to it. There's a spin-off animated show on Netflix as well, but nothing comes close to the first one for me. And I've got a clip for you, and this has one of those many nods. I'm sure you'll catch this immediately when you hear it. This is the Boss Baby debriefing his posse of regular baby assistants.
Who are you?
Let's just say I'm the boss.
The boss? You're a baby. You wear a diaper.
You know who else wears diapers? Astronauts and NASCAR drivers, that's who. Called efficiency, Templeton. The average toddler spends, 45 hours a year on the potty? I'm the boss. I don't have that kind of spare time.
Oh, hats off there to the rather fine David Mamet film, Glengarry again, Ross. Put the cookies down. Cookies are for closers. Wow. Okay, now my first recommendation was a film that lost a lot of money when it was released, and I think that was unfair. It's got a good pedigree. For example, it's directed by Tobe Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist Tobe Hooper. It's also got Patrick Stewart in the cast, along with Frank Finlay, a big deal actor at the time, Nicholas Ball, a big TV star from the Detective Series Hazel, and it's even got a script co-written by or adapted from a novel by Dan O'Bannon, who not only it's instrumental in making the Alien franchise work. Now, the problem with it was, I think, that it was released in 1985 when no one was expecting a sort of Aliens-type rip-off to come out of British cinema, and while the effects, I thought, of their time were very good, in some quarters they raised more of a titter than terror. So Life Force is about a group of astronauts who stumble across a spaceship floating aimlessly in space, as they do. They've never seen a science fiction or horror film, so they go on board and they awaken deep frozen space vampires who wreak havoc throughout London. Also, this is Peter Firth, who then turned up in I think the series Spooks he was in, but also was in the film Equus. So a pedigree cast. Good one. Adapted from a novel by the, frankly, bonkers 1950s writer who kept writing throughout the 70s, Colin Woolston, a book called Space Vampires, which is a really shocking, horrifying, but kind of quite gripping read, which I thought the film was going to do. Didn't do any business at all, lost a lot of money, and I think meant that Britain's going to turn its back on science fiction after that for a long, long time indeed. And yet this film has grown in stature. Not it's a great film, folks. It's frightening. It's on Talking Pictures TV 5 minutes past 9 tonight. But it's one of those films you think, if you like horror films and you like science fiction films, what's not to love about this one? What do you make of this one, Ben?
Oh, I really like this one. I think this got a new lease of life when it hit DVD. It was a very early DVD release when we started reissuing films at the end of the 90s, early 2000s. And it gained a very immediate surge in its sort of cult fandom. Because I didn't know of the film until the DVD era, and I have a soft spot for it. And you say Peter Firth and Patrick Stewart. And Peter Firth will always be the guy from Hunt for Red October who gets the language shift. When they switch from Russian to English, he's always that actor to me, as well as, Harry Pierce in Spooks. And I think Steve Railsback is the star of this as well, who famously was Dwayne Barry in The X-Files, so he's abducted Scully in The X-Files. I'll say it is just a camp cult classic now, I think, of the science fiction genre, anchored by, that Dan O'Bannon, that Dan O'Bannon script. And
also, of course, Colin Wilson, who'd written a book called The Outsiders in the 50s, a kind of cod philosophy book, was a real kind of, he's a red-hot author for about 2 years and then kind of fell away a bit. But he wrote this because a leading science fiction writer objected to his criticism of H.P. Lovecraft. So he said, well, I can write a Lovecraftian type horror. I'll set it in space. And in fact, he wrote 3 such books. One of them, The Mind Parasites, is very good. This one isn't bad as a book. As a film, I think it's well worth a watch, folks. 5 minutes past 9, wonderfully unwieldy time on Talking Pictures TV tonight. And here, my friends, is a chunk of the trailer. In space, no one can hear you scream. Oh, that's another film.
They watched. They waited. Now their time has come. Out of the depths of space, the ultimate terror. Moving, searching, destroying. From body to body, from life to life, from man to woman. Changing, growing, burning for our life force.
And so we go to your second recommendation, and this is an absolute biggie. I mean, it's not the jolliest of watches, far from it, but it's an amazing film, an amazing achievement by Steven Spielberg. Sentimental at times. It does take you to places that maybe you don't expect to go with a film this kind of Spielbergian at other moments. It is Saving Private Ryan, you dog. You got there first this week.
I did. I love Saving Private Ryan. And I have an ongoing conversation with my friend Ben Haynes about what the greatest war movie of all time is. And I will always go for Saving Private Ryan. I think this thing is an untouchable masterpiece. Obviously, the story of a US Army platoon who are sent to recover a missing soldier on the World War II battlefield after having discovered that 3 of his brothers have all been killed and their mother has been told on the same day of their deaths. The army sets out with an all-star cast. It's worth noting that the initial news comes via a then unknown Bryan Cranston, of all people, at the start of the movie. You've got the platoon, which consists of like Tom Hanks, Tom Sizemore, Vin Diesel, Barry Pepper, Ed Burns as well, and of course Matt Damon as Private Ryan himself. Absolutely untouchable movie for me, and I think remembered best to most people, I think, for the Normandy beach, is Omaha Beach, Normandy Beach. Which beach was it at the beginning?
I think they're on Omaha. I think the Americans had a Omaha. I think it's Omaha. I think, and the stand-up performance for me is one, and it's almost like something from a different film, but brilliantly done, is Giovanni Ribisi as the medic.
Yes,
and he gives a speech in it about when he was growing up as child of a single parent. That's incredibly moving. It's like something from a method acting class in the 1950s. A brilliant performance by him.
Exactly. You talk about scenes like that, and at the same time you have the sequences with Barry Pepper where he's doing his sniper stuff in the church.
Oh, he's great. And he is great in this.
It's got everything. Yeah. So much going for this movie. It's such a classic.
But have you seen Come and See, the Russian film about the Nazis' invasion of that part of Eastern Europe? Because, if you think parts of this are harrowing, that one will actually strip the enamel from your teeth, and it's one of the war films that stay with me. Saving Private Ryan is great. There's plenty about the Big Red One, Sam Fuller's 1980s war film, is pretty darn good as well, with Mark Hamill and Lee Marvin. But I think this and Come and See are up there for me as the biggies. And maybe even the 2 Japanese conflict films, that Flags of Our Father and Letters from Iwo Jima, is that the one by Clint Eastwood? Those are pretty good films as well. It is a goodie though. So when can we see this one? When's it on this weekend?
So you can see this weekend. It's on Saturday night on Channel 4 at 9 o'clock. So I've got a clip for you, and this is Hanks and his platoon.
Sometimes I wonder if I've changed so much, my wife is even going to recognize me whenever it is I get back to her. And how I'll ever be able to tell her about days like today. Ryan, I don't know anything about Ryan. I don't care. Man means nothing to me. It's just a name. But if going to Ramel and finding him so he can go home, if that earns me the right to get back to my wife, well, then that's my mission.
So there we go. A great film, and I'm matching it with, a beautiful to look at film, silly in its own way. If you thought Dick Van Dyke's supposed Cockney accent was bad in Mary Poppins, Keanu Reeves trying to do I know where the so-and-so lives. It sounds like he's eating the scenery along the way, but it is, of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, and it has got an amazing cast. Anthony Hopkins in it as Van Helsing. You also, of course, got the likes of Keanu Reeves. Tom Waits pops up as a kind of assistant to the vampires in the Madhouse. It's a very scary performance indeed. Beautiful to look at, this film. It's got Winona Ryder in it as well, and it's a kind kind of Gary Oldman tour de force, because he plays Dracula in a variety of guises, starting as this kind of 18th century hideous decadent-looking nobleman with the strangest... it looks like a wig, but I think it's meant to be his forehead. Then he becomes a dapper Victorian gentleman with blue sunglasses, and along the way you get romance, you get an Annie Lennox song, and you do get a fantastically brittle performance from Anthony Hopkins, having no mercy at all to Dracula's wig. Cut off the head, burn the bodies, that's it, we're going with it. So it's a very clipped performance, a very good film, this, I think. Did good business, I think, didn't it? But it kind of was... It was one of those 90s films, along with like Interview with the Vampire, that were attempted to reinvent the horror genre when it didn't really need reinventing. But this, I think, is a creditable addition to the old Dracula canon. And you can catch this one, technically, don't pull me up on this one, Ben, it's a Sunday film. It's 1:30 in the morning on Sunday morning, but I think people are still up that late from Saturday night to see a horror film, so I'm counting it as my Saturday selection. It's a cracking film, this one. It's on Film 4, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and here, my friends, is a rather blood-curdling chunk of the trailer, bite size.
Their names are legendary. Their destinies linked. An ageless myth meets an uncompromising master. Francis Ford Coppola brings an undying legend to life. Dracula. Beware.
And my final recommendation is one of my favourite films of the 80s. It's the original Conan the Barbarian movie, directed by John Milius, who wrote the speech in Jaws about why they all hate sharks, why Robert Shaw's character hates sharks. He also made Red Dawn, an underrated, weird Patrick Swayze film about...
Classic.
Patrick Swayze becomes a kind of guerrilla when the Russians invade the USA. And this is basically, does what it says on it. It's Robert Irvin Howard's hero, Conan the Barbarian, and it tells you an early adventure from his career. It's got the fantastic James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, man who won an Oscar for The Great White Hope, as Thulsa Doom, wearing what looks like a wig that even the cheeky girls would have rejected, but he's fantastic in it. It's very violent for its time. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan is dream casting. It's as important to his career and as good and as apt as him playing the Terminator. And the scenes when he's kind of shadow sword fighting against unseen opponents, his sword, I mean, he's obviously a great athlete as well. A brilliant movie, this one, I think. Bit saucy as well. I remember watching it with I got a kind of, dare one say it now, a pirate DVD, a pirate video of it when it came out. Watched it with my son who was then 8. There's a rather saucy encounter between Conan and a witch, which his mum told me off about me letting him watch. But even so, this is for my mind, it's a cracking old movie, this one. It's on 10:10, Sunday evening, ITV4, Watch Not to Love. He even does the speech, doesn't he, about what is good, crushing the enemy under your feet and hearing the lamentation of their women. And it suits O'Reilly perfectly, because his English was not of the best then, and Conan was meant to be the barbarian from Cimmeria, I think is the country he comes from, ends up being a king. And I think at the end of the next film, Conan the Destroyer, nowhere near as good, it said, coming next, King Conan, which never got made. If Arnie makes one more film on Mr. Schwarzenegger, do it about be King Conan. What a great valedictory farewell to a career that will be. His third outing as Conan, as a king. So as I say, ITV4, 10:10, Sunday night. Again, is a barbarian-sized bit of the trailer.
Slave. Barbarian. Warrior. Thief. Conan.
They said you'd come, a man of great strength, conqueror, one who could crush the snakes of the earth.
And we really have got a mixed bag of films this week. Tell us your final recommendation, if you would, please, Van Connor.
So, one of my favourite Tom Cruise movies, I think this one gets overlooked in the pantheon of great cruise flicks. This is an adaptation of the manga novel All You Need Is Kill, which I think is an absolutely brilliant title for a movie. For some reason, they decided that wasn't a good enough title, and they changed it to Edge of Tomorrow. And then when they released the movie on DVD, they then changed it to Live, Die, Repeat for some reason. We are apparently getting a sequel to this, so it's 2014's Doug Liman directed adaptation, going by the title, officially speaking, of Edge of Tomorrow, in which Tom Cruise is a sleazy army PR guy who, during humanity's war with an alien race, finds himself railroaded, put on the battlefield, exposed to alien blood, and then immediately killed.
Yeah.
Only to then wake up the previous morning as if nothing had happened, and only he remembers everything. And this goes on and on and on. So, effectively, this winds up becoming a sort of a video game format, where he keeps playing the game over and over until he literally finds himself becoming the expert at it, the greatest soldier who ever lived, teaming up with a fellow looper, played by Emily Blunt, as, I think they call her the Full Metal Bitch, I think they call her at some point. That's literally what they call her in marketing parlance throughout the movie, Full Metal Bitch. And the pair of them have to effectively find their way out of the loop and through the war to save humanity. This one's a cracker, and best of all, as if it wasn't just great enough in concept, it's so good it has to have Bill Paxton in it. And that's how you knew when a movie was good. Yeah. And it's perfect time as well. Sunday night, 9 o'clock, 5-star, cracking action. If you like, it might be the best video game movie ever made that wasn't based on a video game.
I must say, Age of Tomorrow was a terrible title. It's like one of those Douglas melodramas from the 50s starring Rock Hudson. Live, Die, Repeat, I think, is pretty darn good. And that's exactly what the film is. And it is, I think, wasn't this around the time he released the film? Was it Oblivion he released as well around this time, Tom Cruise? The other science fiction film he made, which kind of slightly overshadowed this one. It may be a slightly more thought, because it wasn't based on a manga. I think the critics were less sniffy about that one.
Absolutely. I think Oblivion was the year before, and then it's Edge of Tomorrow. So he was on something of a sci-fi kick at the time. Cruise, to be fair, does sci-fi very well.
Minority Report is a great film.
Minority Report, yeah.
Great film.
We're both Minority Report fans, so obviously, we kind of subscribe to that theory. I think this is a much better movie than Oblivion.
Yeah,
Oblivion is very cool, but I think this is so rewatchable. I mean, it kind of fits the theme of the movie that it is as rewatchable as it is, to be honest. I've got a clip for you. This is Cruise finding himself waking up for the very first time, just wondering just what the hell is going on and what happened to tomorrow.
Groundhog Day with killer aliens. Here we go.
Where the hell am I, Sergeant?
Forward Operating Base Heathrow. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
Do I strike you as a fresh recruit?
No, sir, you do not.
My name is Major William Cage. I'm an American officer.
Officer? This is processing. There's no officers down here. I got this, Sergeant. How the hell did you end up in processing? What was it? Poker night? Bachelor party?
It's all the same to you, Sergeant. I'd like to explain that to my commanding officer in Washington, so if you just take me to a phone.
Haven't you heard? We're T-minus whole last H hour. We're fixing to invade France. This whole FOB's on lockdown. No calls. In or out.
So there you have it, my friends. Half a dozen movies to choose between, or maybe catch them all. You can record some or download some or whatever. And Van, are you doing off-screen this week? Is it the last one before Christmas, or are you doing a kind of look-back one next week as well? Off-screen's your podcast, of course.
Of course. We are not doing one for the rest of the year now. This morning is our very last one for the year, because otherwise we'd have to talk about Aquaman next week, and I don't think anybody wants to hear me going off and losing it properly at the idea of one last DCEU movie. But you can hear the final off-screen of 2023 on podcast platforms with Adam Ball and myself from 8 a.m.
And catch Van with me, Paul Ross, and with you guys, of course, each and every Friday. I'm sure we're doing it next week as well. And then we'll do the following week. We'll look back at some of the best recommendations we've had, because these films are also on a live, die, repeat kind of loop. Van Connor there talking to me, Paul Ross, new guys on talkSPORT and on talkRADIO. And that, for the time being, is a wrap.